Hey everybody, welcome back. Just if you have not seen us before or you're a longtime viewer, please check out our videos anywhere you would like, from Rumble, BitChute, or of course YouTube. And today we are going to be discussing dreamers and the how society, especially in the West, puts a damper on the human spirit and does not allow the individual to really to dream.
Yeah.
And you have guys like Elon Musk, for example, that will put on high, and he seems like a crazy dreamer. But if you hear somebody, it's a down putting sort of thing. Oh, he's just a dreamer. His head's in the clouds. Uh, don't do that. You can't do that. Oh, hey, little Johnny, be quiet over there. Uh, Everything in the West wants you to conform to the consumeristic idea of, especially the collective now. That's becoming more and more and more. You either belong to this, you're either woke, or whatever it is. You got to subscribe to these notions of political correctness
Oh yeah, the political correctness.
and subdue your individual thoughts and to really dream. And I like that quote from what's that Robin Williams movie that's so good about them in boarding school? It's only in dreams can men truly be free. It was always thus
Dead
and
Poet Society?
yes, it was
Okay.
always thus and thus will always be.
Well, so if you haven't seen our videos before, this is one of our off the cuff kind of things where we don't have notes in front of us, and it's going to be more of a free flowing conversation. So don't expect our usual beautiful edited videos for this one. It's going to be a little different.
Well, I would expect
It's going to be better. It's just in a different form.
to be the contrarian to my brother, which makes this so much more interesting. Which because we agree on so many things, but it is fun whenever we disagree. Like with UFOs, go check out that video. It was great. The whole point is that there's so much more to the individual, and if we promoted the individual more, and allowed for and promoted the dreaming nature of man and the leisure to carve out, to make it where that was a cultural norm, to where we had leisure time for arts, for study, to dream. And
Well, but we don't want that. The individual is much harder to control than the collective. A collective is easy to control. I always like to think of what we're talking about now as individuals in their home to be rounded up. Whereas if you have a huge Coliseum type event, you can round up, just look at the Superdome, 62,000 people. If it's packed to capacity and they're all at this event, that's a collectivism thinking. They're all wanting a team to win. They're thinking about the same thing, whether you want the blue team to win or the white team or whatever it is. But, individuals are harder to round up in their home. It's easier to go to that group and say, gotcha, y'all fall out in a single file line and go into your little cages, where it's much harder as the individual to go from home to home, especially in a rural area, because that's what thinking outside of the box is. You're over here. You're not in this box with this collectivism thinking.
and I don't think that I know that if we promoted the individual, the collective ends up being the better for it. And what we have done is suppress the minds of people to such a large degree, is that we, as a collective, the majority typically will follow whatever the authorities will say. From that, whether that's been growing up in what people call schools, or I refer to them as indoctrination camps.
I like to think of them as child prisons.
Yeah, that is what they are.
You're told when you can stand up, when you can go to the bathroom, when you can eat, and when you can leave, when you can take your rest, when you can take your
When you can
yard
speak,
time. Yeah.
everything. And when you hear the bell, you snap to attention and run to the next place to hurry and sit down.
Yeah, because if you're not there within a certain allotted time, then we'll punish you for that too.
And if you don't show up, then we're going to punish you and your parents. Well, that is kind of a whole different subject. But the point being is that we're not fostering the dream state of man to dream to be better, to dream about how to promote yourself. Promote yourself in that you're promoting how you interact with people, how you engage. Do you actively not hear the other person talking and interrupting them? Is that you're promoting yourself to be better than that? You're promoting your mind. You're being quiet in meditation. You're being a active dreamer and thinking about who it is you want to become and actively pursuing that. Now we do that in a certain way. We say, okay, well, you go to college and you can be, a doctor, lawyer, nurse, whatever it is. But then you just get in this grind of a system, and which is a shame. But I think if we really started to explore the whole potential of the individual, such as the energy chakras in us, all the other alternative forms of health that only recently have become alternative when they have been, and in China and Asia still are the primary sources of health. Now in the West, they're considered, oh, that's quacky alternative stuff, but they work fantastic. And what do you think all these pharmaceuticals are made out of? The same holistic things that are now synthesized from those things.
They definitely start out that way. Yes.
And so it's the promotion of the mind, for us to be critical thinkers, for us to explore new ideas that seem foreign to us. Like the idea of remote viewing seems like that is absolutely absurd, but it is. For those of you who don't know, Russell Targ, what is it, SRI, and of course governments around the world have been exploring the notion of psychic abilities.
Well, I'll give our viewers just a little bit of background if you don't know what remote viewing is, because when you brought the topic, I didn't know anything about it. And then now every Sunday when we meet, or more often, we practice our remote viewing practice. So what we do is we have a box or a bag and it has something in it. And the other person, it's not a guess of what is in the bag. They try to be in touch with the object that is in it to see how close you can get to it. And you don't say, well, for instance, it's a pen. You would start out, well, is it a cylinder? And you draw it out on a piece of paper and you just draw, and it's the first thing that comes to your mind. You don't really try to think about it. You think more in shapes. You think not in words, because everything that we've given a label to is only a label within our certain language that we speak. The pen is not a pen in Spanish. It's bolígrafo or whatever it is. Yeah. So when you think in those terms, it limits you and it limits your understanding, because you can only grasp what you know about. But when you start drawing something out, or you have a feeling of something, is it this shape or that shape, it gives you a much wider range of things in this narrow word. So it's something interesting to think about, that you have some friends at home that if you would like to see some of this, you can go and see the hard science with your Russell Tarr, and you can actually get together and practice these things that you can do in your home with your friends. And it's really an interesting mind expansion project for you and the people that you're close to.
It's really fun because it's not a guess. You just go in there with a blank mind, almost like you are attempting to meditate, and you imagine whatever the shape is inside this thing that you cannot see through, and you just scribble and draw whatever it is out. And we've had amazing success with it. It's been pretty amazing.
Well, one of us has. Somebody's got a little bit of work to do over here, but my brother over there is actually quite good at it. It is shocking at how good you can get at something that you think is
crazy. Wackery.
Yeah. Actually, as a matter of fact, the crazier that you think it is, maybe more than likely from the government studies, you will be better at it than someone that believes in such.
Well, you can just go Google like Ingo Schwann or Russell Targ, look up the Russian and Czechoslovakian psychic and remote viewing studies back in the late 50s, early 60s. This has been going on since that time with both Russia and the United States with massive studies. And supposedly, the government's interest in it started to wane in the late 80s, which I find that really difficult to believe since they had such a, now that it's declassified, it's a massive success stories of finding secret things and secret documents and all sorts of interesting things that most people on the surface would just go, okay, that's nuts, which goes to the whole idea that we suppress collectively in the West the power of the mind, what we can do. I mean, how many times have most of you out there thought of somebody and then all of a sudden they called you, or you thought about them and all of a sudden you see them, you know, somebody you haven't seen in a long time, you think of them and then, you know, you see them again, you know, in the very, you know, that day or the next day. I mean, that stuff happens pretty frequent with most people, that thing that happens. So something's going on in your mind, and with all of your body is in tune with some frequency of someone else that you feel, you know, before they call you. It's pretty fascinating, but there are so many ways that we can promote the mind instead of doing things like adding various things into our water, for example, that calcify the pineal gland, and so many aspects of what we do as a society or as a Western culture from Europe to here that say, oh, that's crazy. You know, don't look into that. Don't, you know, there's nothing to see here, folks. Move on. Oh, don't go look or Google remote viewing and Ingo Schwann, or don't look at SRI or all these massive, in-depth scientific studies that are hard science, hard evidence, proven. Like, it's pretty amazing what the mind can do. And I strongly believe, that if we promoted the individual into to have sacred time, like you have a little bit of time every week to daydream, I like to think of it as, you know, when we were kids, or when I was a kid, before you were even born, you know, I used to like to watch Star Trek, and they used to have the little flip phones and all those things before there was even a cell phone. And, you know, that was the imagination that was probably already invented, but you know, there was a lot of imaginative things that just seemed so fantastical, so impossible, that it was fun to think about. And now a lot of those things are reality. And people think now, well, you can't psychically do some. Of course, there are a bunch of quacks and frauds in the world, and that's just a given. But there's a lot of real things associated with that we should promote and try to understand better as a collective, instead of just having all of these studies that have done. People should be aware of them.
Well, that's what I say to the people out at home, to try some of these things, and then you can discover for yourself, is it quackery, is it not for you? You know, discover things for yourself, to go out and think about things, and don't let somebody tell you what is quackery or what is this or what is that. To actually think for yourself, to go out and live it, to feel it,
and to exercise your artistic part of your brain, where most people don't do that. We don't really, we promote the arts to a small degree in the United States, but most of the time, if you say you're an artist, people look kind of condescending to you, sort of, unless you're like really super talented.
I would say that we do not promote art in the United States, because if you look at any public schooling, they're always getting funded cutting for arts, but they have no problem putting new AstroTurf on the football field.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's sad. But here, and I like to refer to this whole place that we're at as just our big temple. So it's a temple of permaculture, a temple of this building. We are our own temples, and we should promote our temple, promote the parts of our mind that want to be curious, want to explore. Like every so often, we'll all get together out here, buy a bunch of canvas, get a bunch of paint, and we'll just go to town. and some people, some of it just looks hideous, but I love it.
Excuse me, no, I will chime in there. I don't know what you're talking about. Anything I paint is a masterpiece, and if you don't get it, you're undereducated and low bred, because what I do is a masterpiece. The Louvre has called me multiple times, and I stopped picking up the phone. It's that good.
It is priceless.
It's priceless.
It is priceless, but it is so much fun to explore that artistic notion. I've been wanting to draw a face, do portraits really well of my spouse, and it has taken a lot of practice. And as soon as I think I'm doing well, then of course I just start to not do well. But over time in practice, you start exercising those parts of your brain, and I think that enhances our natural psychic ability as well, because we're exercising different parts of our mind to think outside of our norm, to do things differently, kind of like the whole notion of religion and Christianity. Most people have never thoroughly read from cover to cover the whole book, or any religious book for that matter. So, the more we explore, the more we understand who and what we are, what we believe, why we believe it, how do we learn other topics. I think you join us here with a whole list of, on our website, which you'll see down in the description below. You can just click it and go. There's a myriad of topics that help us think outside of the box.
And when we say join us, we actually do mean you can show up in person. We do have a congregation that comes, and there in some of our videos, if you look back, we make mention to, was it last week or the week before, we had a big youth event going on down here, and you could hear them going on in the speakers in our microphones because we're right up above it. So we promote that kind of activity.
Especially during the fall and spring when it's really nice outside. We like to have all these outside events and use the physicality of ourselves and our nature to, play horseshoes, throw bags, play tennis, basketball, all those things here, and go outside with some canvas and just paint, to read poetry, to do all these things. Practice reading out loud, which most people have a big fear of.
Or just speaking out loud, most people have a big fear of. I think it's still probably the number one fear in the U.S. Even dying is number two. So people would rather be in the coffin than stand up giving the eulogy over the coffin, which I always thought was really weird. Like, what's the worst thing that can happen when you're talking in front of people? You stumble or something? Yeah, just record yourself. How many times do you stumble in a normal conversation? I mean, it happens all the time. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? Somebody's going to say, oh, you're a bad public speaker?
Oh, gosh, anything but that.
Oh, man. That's like saying somebody come up to you on the beach. How much do you squat, bro? It's not going to happen. Nobody cares.
No, nobody cares. Yeah, nobody cares. If you're young and you're looking for a girlfriend, your girlfriend's never going to ask you, oh, how much do you bench?
No, it's not going to happen.
It doesn't happen.
Trust me, I've been all over the world, and no girl has ever asked me that. Ever. I'm still waiting on it. Right. There's got to be a Mrs. Right out there somewhere. God.
I think you got her.
It's weird. Her maiden name was Right, so I guess I did.
Yes, you did. Oh. Well, I think that basically summarizes the whole the whole thing of this conversation is we must explore, we must dream, we must think out of the box, we must have conversations about topics that make us uncomfortable and comfortable and the like. Think about new things on a regular basis, which helps us exercise our whole thought process to boil down in a nutshell who and what we are as individuals. And the stronger and more aware each individual is, the better everyone else is too. That's my point.
I couldn't agree more. I do have to say, join us on all of our other topics on any of the other alternative websites, Rumble, BitChute, and have a good day.